What is going on? David Lombard coming to you live from my office here in Santa Barbara, and I am very excited about a crazy story and a crazy lesson for you. Now, you can see the title of this blog. It's Accepting the Offer and Stepping into the Unknown. Saying yes. Do you ever have someone offer you something or to do something or invite you somewhere and you had other things going on and maybe you're just like, how am I going to find the time? Do I really want to do this? And you didn't really know what was going to happen if you went and did it, and you held back, and then you found out later what an amazing opportunity you had, or you never found out. Well, I'm going to invite you the next time this happens to accept the offer and step into the unknown, because the things that we're asking for, like the things that I'm asking for, praying for, setting intentions for, it's not up to me to know how they're going to show up, right? So if I pray and I meditate and I visualize and I write all these intentions and then I take massive action, I don't know how it's going to show up. I don't know what form I'm going to be sent that result, that person, that thing that I'm seeking. So if I'm not accepting the offer, as master trainer Dave Wood says, then how am I going to know if it shows up that way? So I have a crazy story. I have a client in the UK, and he just called me because I'm on the internet. Never met him or talked to him before in my life. And as it turns out, he is and it's just a perfect example of when you're in flow, synchronistically, people and places and things that you relate to that just work perfect with you just come in. This guy apparently is a drum. I like a lot of different music. Something from every genre pretty much. And I love drum and bass, right? Well, this guy turns out to be the manager of two or three of the biggest live electronic music acts in the UK, namely, I won't give them away just to keep him anonymous. But they are like the three biggest electronic acts in the UK. So anyway, I didn't find this out until last night, and I'll tell you how. So he calls me, and he's a client of mine. He says, "Could you help out a friend of mine who lives in LA?" Now, I live in Santa Barbara, so it's about a 90-minute drive, which, as you can compute, would be 3 hours 3 hours total trip, plus the time I'm going to be there. So I have to see that it's worth my time for what I'm worth per hour. And you want to know what you're worth per hour, too. Your hourly, your income divided by, hours in a week. Basically, or hours in a day, once you scale it down. And so I said to him, for me to go coach this person and meet with this person and do all this, I'm going to need, X, Y, and Z. And he gave me X, Y, Z, and a little Z plus. You know what I'm saying? So he made it worth my time. I still wasn't keen on driving all the way to the Hollywood Hills, which I've never actually been to. I've been to LA. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just accept the offer and see what kind of great things can come out of this. Oh my God. So I go and see this guy, a really cool guy. I talked to him on the phone, and I went to go do some coaching, some health coaching with him, and amongst some other business, some other things. And I drive down there, and my navigation takes me right off the 101, right into the main, this side street that I see entering up a hill, up into the Hollywood Hills, right? So I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. I'm driving along, and the road starts getting, as I'm going uphill, the road starts getting more narrow. And the places along the side, the higher I go up this hill, it's windy, super tight, crazy tight, windy, high, switchbacks, and just the craziest road you ever seen, right? It actually reminded me of, now I haven't been to Paris yet, but from what I see, those crazy streets and the tight buildings, that's kind of what it reminded me of, was something like what I have seen Europe to be. And so anyway, as I'm going up this thing, the houses are getting crazier and crazier. When I say crazy, I mean just gorgeous designer, things that you don't see. I see stuff like that here in Santa Barbara once I go up on the Riviera or certain parts downtown. But this was noticeably every place got. So anyway, so I'm going up this thing, and I finally, I look on my nav, and I see that it's taking me to the very top. I'm like, no way. Because my friend in the UK said that this guy was a music producer. So my friend in the UK, my client, is a manager. he's like, oh yeah, my friend, and he's a music producer down there in LA, and he lives in Hollywood, whatever. I'm like, okay. I'm thinking he's just like another, somebody who's trying to make it with their laptop and their whole setup or whatever, not thinking it was going to be any big deal. So I'm driving up this thing, and I get to the very top. Finally, it took me like 15 minutes at a dead end. Literally the highest point in the Hollywood Hills. Like, the highest point. You look across, and you see the Hollywood sign, and I'll tell you what happened after that. So I get up there, I knock on the door, and lo and behold, I get to meet him in person and really start talking to him, and he ends up being, and I'm not going to give away his identity either, he is the producer for pretty much 3 of the biggest rock bands in the world right now. And it was crazy because I did not expect this at all. And literally, just driving to his place, for me, was adventure enough. That was the adventure. That was enough fun for me because it was so cool and so crazy. I've never seen anything like it. Well, I get up there, and he's at a dead end, and he opens up this kind of like big wooden gate and everything because you can't see in, except you can see a big like house, like this wraparound house. And I go in, and it's just like the most unbelievable garden and like lights everywhere. And we walk into this kitchen, living room kind of thing, like kitchen and living room, and all you see is these windows across the whole living room, outside the kitchen. And it just looks over all of LA, over absolutely everything. He's like, you see that blue house down there? He's like, that's Chris Brown's house. I mean, he's pointing them all out. And he takes me around back, and it is literally the highest. There's a water tower right by it, the highest point in the Hollywood Hills. And he's like, there's the Hollywood sign. Because I said I'd never seen that. I'm like, hey, can you show me around? And he's like, that's Ashton Kutcher's house way down there by that lake. And it was crazy, and because it was so dark, I didn't get a good picture, and he took me down on the other side of his house, down the hill, the front of it, and they just have this hill that goes like, it's like this, but as far as the eye can see, and there's trails that go all the way down, and they get that's the landlord, the place that he rents from, they own that land, right? So we just start walking down there. In the middle of the path, there's just a shack that's like this hut, and it looking over all of LA, like all of Hollywood, everything, in the middle of this hill. We walk in this thing, and it's just this little hut, probably the size of this office, actually, maybe a little bit bigger. And he's got his full-on studio, like where he mixes and produces music and beats, just sitting there, like in the middle of, on this hill, looking over all of it. I mean, it was totally out of a vision board. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. I mean, so it was I'm so glad I accepted the offer and stepped into the unknown, because not only I can see having a great friendship with this guy, but it was just crazy. It was the coolest place the coolest residence, hands down, I've ever been to. Then he's like, hey, you want to go up the street to Moby's? I'm like, are you kidding me, man? Are you serious? He's like, yeah. So we walk up, and Moby wasn't home, but Moby lives in this, the music producer, electronic music producer, an artist. He wasn't home, and so we were just like standing outside of his castle, but I was like, so are you guys on like first name basis? He's like, yeah, they call us over for dinner and vice versa. I'm like, this is too cool. So I spent a little while there, and bottom line of that story was I wanted to just tell the whole thing because it was so exciting and it was so crazy, and I'm probably forgetting some pieces. But say yes, accept the offer. If you have a little gut that says, oh, just do it, just go ahead and do it. Accept the offer. Step into the unknown daily. That's leading a kick-ass life, and it definitely pays off. You will manifest some of the most amazing situations in your life if you just step in and say yes and accept the offer. Look forward to seeing you guys on the other side. Feel free to leave a comment and tell me about a story or a time, even a video response to this, when you just stepped in and you're like, okay, and you said yes and you stepped into the unknown, not knowing, and something great happened. Maybe you can leave me a comment. Leave us a comment and let us know. Look forward to seeing you guys on the other side. Bye for now.